The city of New Geneva floated under a bright blue sky, its silver towers touching the clouds, and its streets alive with music and laughter. Today was special. It was the celebration of 1,000 years of peace. Children played in zero-gravity parks, bouncing between shimmering platforms, while AI choirs filled the air with perfect harmonies. Families walked together, wearing the traditional white robes of the peace era. No one remembered the last time a shot had been fired in anger. Humanity had grown used to calm days, safe nights, and a galaxy without war. The people believed that peace was forever. That belief ended in a single heartbeat. Without warning, the air above the city darkened, as if a shadow had swallowed the sun. The laughter died. Every head turned upward. The sky split apart. It was not a cloud, not a storm. It was a wound in the air itself, a tear that stretched, wide and deep. Through it came the shapes of enormous warships, black as burnt metal and bristling with weapons. They blotted out the light, their massive forms sliding silently into the atmosphere. The great festival music stopped mid-note. A deep hum began to shake the ground, rattling windows and trembling glasses on cafe tables. Then came the voice. It was cold and inhuman, broadcast in every language at once. The peace era is over. Surrender, humans, message echoed. Across the planet, spilling into every home, every city, every station, orbiting Earth, most species would have screamed, panicked, and run. Most would have fallen to their knees. But the humans did not. The people of New Geneva looked at the sky and stood still. The shopkeeper wiping a glass paused but did not drop it. A group of school children stared with wide eyes, but none cried. In the great Unity Hall, where leaders from every continent had gathered for the anniversary, the president rose slowly from her chair. Her face carried no fear, only a strange, almost amused smile. Around her, the other members of the World Council whispered nervously. Well, but she only looked upward through the glass ceiling. The alien ships were enormous, far larger than anything. In the human fleet, at least, the fleet everyone knew about. Far above the planet, the alien flagship hovered like a mountain of steel. Inside, Lord Zyrith, Supreme Commander of the Var Dominion, observed the surface with cold eyes. He had expected terror. He saw none. It unsettled him. Turning to his officers, he ordered the opening phase of the invasion to begin. On Earth, the president quietly pressed her palm against a hidden panel on the table. In a chamber sealed for a millennium, gears and locks began to move. The doors of the old vault opened with a hiss of air untouched since the last war. Inside, in the dim red light, stood a single row of black cases, each marked with the symbol of the wolf, the emblem of the old Terran War Command. Soldiers in gray armor stepped forward silently, removing the cases and opening them to reveal weapons no civilian had seen in 1,000 years. Back in the streets, ordinary citizens began to walk away from the festival grounds, not in fear, but with quiet purpose. Some returned home and sealed their windows. Others disappeared into underground tunnels where hidden transport pods waited. Above them, the alien fleet began to descend lower, shadowing the land. The voice came again. This time with a threat. If you resist, you will be destroyed. The president, watching from the hall, leaned closer to the microphone, linked only to her highest generals. Her voice was calm, almost casual. Begin war protocols. Stage 1. In the asteroid belt, far beyond Mars, dormant shapes began to stir. They were ships, but not the peaceful trade vessels the galaxy had seen for centuries. These ships were sharp-edged, built for speed and destruction. Their hulls were painted black, their weapons glowing faintly as they powered up for the first time in 1,000 years. Hidden deep inside the moons of Jupiter, vast cannons turned toward the alien fleet, their barrels sliding from the rock like the eyes of some great beast's awakening. On the alien bridge, Lord Zyrith frowned. His sensors detected sudden energy. Spikes across the solar system unknown, massive, and dangerous. His communications officer looked uneasy. Commander, these readings, they should not exist. Not supposed to have this level of power. Zyreth's voice was sharp. Then the reports were wrong. Destroy them before they can use it. But in that moment, across every human outpost and colony, a coded signal spread. Doors opened in asteroid fortresses. AI systems long asleep began to calculate firing solutions. Its old generals, now gray-haired and forgotten by history, stood in war rooms watching ancient battle maps light up once more. The peace era had been a shield, but beneath that shield had always been the sword in New Geneva. The president turned her gaze from the sky and looked at her advisors. "They think we are farmers," she said softly. "They have forgotten we used to be wolves." Outside, the alien ships loomed over the city, their weapons primed. 1,000 years of silence had ended. The first sound of the new age was the quiet click of human weapons unlocking. And somewhere deep in space, the war that the galaxy thought impossible had just begun. The alien fleet hung over Earth like a storm that refused to break. From orbit, their dark hulls swallowed the sunlight, casting shadows that stretched across oceans. In the flagship's war chamber, Lord Zyreth studied maps of human cities, confident that this soft, peaceful race would crumble after the first strike. The Var Dominion had crushed dozens of worlds in its long history, and this one, with its green fields and delicate glass towers, would be no different. But his unease from the humans' reaction in New Geneva lingered. They had not begged, they had not screamed, they had only watched, and some had even smiled. That was not how prey behaved. Far below, in the cold underground chambers of Earth's hidden defense network, the air was thick with the smell of metal and oil. The war protocols were active now, fully awakened for the first time in a millennium. Soldiers of the Shadow Corps moved in silence, their armor matte black, their faces hidden behind visors. They had been trained for this moment in secret generation after generation, while the surface world celebrated peace. Outrated. To the public, these men and women did not exist. They had been shadows in history, ghosts that trained in forgotten stations, soldiers who lived and died without their names ever spoken. Now, their commanders briefed them with crisp, simple orders: engage at first contact, no mercy. In the asteroid belt, the first of the hidden warships powered up completely, their engines burning with blue fire. The TNS Vengeance, a dreadnought, larger than anything in the human registry, moved from its camouflage among the rocks. Its captain, a woman with steel-gray hair and a scar across her jaw, ran her hands over the controls. 1,000 years of patience, she said to her crew. Let's make it worth the wait. The ship's weapons came on Linrel capable of tearing a cruiser in half. Torpedoes faster than light and something else, something the galaxy had never seen before. Lord Zyreth's fleet made its first move. Without warning, they targeted Mars colony, expecting to wipe it out in minutes. The alien warships emerged from hyperspace over the red planet, their cannons charging. But instead of an unarmed settlement, they found a trap. The ice caps split apart, revealing massive gun batteries hidden beneath the frozen surface. Stealth drones, invisible to normal sensors, swarmed the alien ships and began tearing at their hulls with precision strikes. In seconds, the aliens lost to cruisers. The rest tried to retreat, but railgun fire from a nearby asteroid base shattered their formation. The humans had been ready. The humans had been waiting. News of the battle spread quickly through both fleets. On the alien flagship, Lord Zyreth slammed his claws against the control panel. Impossible. They were farmers, traders, soft-bellied diplomats. How his second-in-command interrupted nervously. "My lord, it appears the humans lead." Zyreth's eyes narrowed.
Aye.
"Then we will burn the lie out of them."
Aye.
On Earth, the president stood before the War Council in a secure bunker. The room was dim, lit only by the glowing lines of battle maps stretching across the walls. She addressed the council calmly, her voice steady despite the news of Mars. "The Dominion thinks it can scare us into surrender. It cannot. They do not know the history we buried. They do not know what we kept hidden." She tapped a control. The maps shifted to reveal old data from the last galactic war, the war that had ended in humanity's victory 1,000 years ago. The wolf emblem shone again. We didn't stop training. We didn't stop building. we only stopped showing our teeth. In space, more human fleets emerged from hiding warships disguised as mining stations, and battle cruisers stored inside hollowed-out comets, fighters hidden in orbit around Jupiter's moons. The aliens' first attack had failed, but it had also done something dangerous. It had woken humanity's true nature. Across the solar system, orders went out, and the old war machines rolled back into the light. The galaxy thought humans had forgotten war. We're about to learn that humans never forget. The Var Dominion had expected the humans to retreat after Mars. Instead, the aliens found themselves chased, hunted through the void by ships they had never seen before. The human fleets moved like predators, slipping in and out of sensor range, striking from angles the Dominion's tactical AI could not predict. Lord Zyroth sat rigid on his command throne aboard the flagship Var's Wrath, watching the battle maps with growing disbelief. Every simulation he had run before this campaign predicted a swift victory. Every one of them had been wrong. The next target was meant to be a demonstration of alien superiority, the complete destruction of the Saturn colonies. The Dominions. Fleets entered the outer system with overwhelming firepower. Dozens of cruisers and destroyers formed a wall of steel as they approached the shimmering rings of Saturn. The alien commanders saw only a scattering of civilian outposts and fragile, orbital habitats. They expected an easy slaughter, but as the first cruisers closed in, the rings themselves seemed to move. Massive chunks of ice and rock, each the size of a city, shifted in unnatural patterns. The aliens had only seconds to realize what was happening. Humanity had turned Saturn's rings into a weapon. Hidden among the ice, vast magnetic arrays powered by nuclear cores began to fire, hurling the ring's debris at incredible speeds. The chunks became hypervelocity projectiles, slamming into alien holes with the force of small nuclear explosions. Alien destroyers shattered like glass, their burning fragments spiraling into the gas giant's clouds. The Dominion tried to counterattack, but human stealth ships emerged from the shadow of Saturn's moons, their railguns spitting fire. The aliens were forced into a retreat again. In the quiet aftermath of the battle, Shadow Corps operatives slipped aboard one of the crippled Dominion battleships. They moved like ghosts through the darkened corridors, cutting down alien soldiers with silent plasma blades. Their goal was not to capture the ship, was to plant an EMP charge in the reactor core. Minutes later, the charge detonated, sending a pulse through the fleet that disabled jump drives in every Dominion vessel nearby. The aliens were trapped in the system. On the TNS Vengeance, Admiral Saren watched the alien fleet flounder. She gave a single order: press them. Human ships surged forward, hammering the Dominion lines until their formation broke apart entirely. The aliens scrambled to escape, but without their jump drives, they were forced into chaotic retreat. Patterns. Saren smiled without warmth. This was no longer a battle. It was a hunt. Lord Zyroth's bridge was a storm of noise damage reports. Frantic calls for reinforcements, the bitter cries of captains losing their ships. His claws dug into the armrest of his throne. The humans were not supposed to be capable of this. They had been peaceful for 1,000 years. Yet here they were, matching and even surpassing the Dominion's most advanced strategies. The truth was becoming clear to him. The humans had never been weak. They had simply been waiting. Far from the front lines, in the War Council bunker. On Earth, the President watched the live feed from Saturn. Her eyes were calm, her tone measured as she spoke to her generals. We told the galaxy we had given up war, that we had chosen peace forever. They believed us. And now, they pay for their mistake. Around her, the council members nodded. None of them looked surprised. Every one of them had known, deep down, that the day would come when humanity would have to bare its teeth again, on orbit above Saturn. The last of the Dominion's crippled ships vanished into the shadow of the planet, hiding and limping away. Humanity did not pursue, not yet. They had made their point. But deep in the command network of the Shadow Corps, new orders were already being prepared. The next phase would not just defend the solar system. The next phase would carry the war to the Dominion's home. The celebrations of Saturn's victory were brief. Humanity had won another battle, But the War Council knew that battles were only pieces of a larger game. The alien fleet would rebuild, regroup, and return. This time, they would come with everything. They had. In the underground war room beneath the Unity Hall, the President stood before a massive holographic display showing the solar system. She spoke quietly, but her words carried through the silence. The question is not if they will strike again. The question is whether they will survive our answer. The truth behind humanity's calm when the war began was no longer a mystery to the generals in the room, but it was still a secret to the rest of the galaxy. 1,000 years earlier, at the end of the Great Extinction War, humanity had not been forced into peace, they had chosen it. The galaxy believed it was because they were exhausted, broken, and desperate for survival. That was the story told in history books, the tale every child in the galaxy learned. But the truth was far darker. Humanity had stood on the brink of total galactic dominance. Their fleets were unmatched, their soldiers feared across dozens of worlds, and their weapons years ahead of their enemies' technology. The peace treaty had not been a surrender. It had been a warning. Over the centuries, the war machines had not been dismantled. They had been hidden. Weapons were sealed in vaults under Earth's crust. Entire fleets were entombed inside hollowed moons. AI war commanders were disguised as harmless cultural archives in orbital museums. And, perhaps most dangerous of all, humanity never stopped training its elite forces. Generations of soldiers lived and died in secret, their very existence unknown. To anyone outside the highest levels of command, they were the Shadow Corps, and the Dominion was only now learning what that name meant. Meanwhile, Lord Zyreth's fury burned hotter with every defeat. In the War Council aboard his flagship, he demanded answers from his advisors. They should not have this power. They should not have this skill. They have been at peace for a millennium. His intelligence officer replied in a low, careful voice. My lord, it appears they never truly stopped preparing for war. The peace era was a disguise. Zyroth's eyes narrowed, the realization striking him like a blade. Then they have played us for fools. Back on Earth, the President met privately with Admiral Saren aboard the TNS Vengeance. The ship's war room was dim, its walls covered in tactical projections. Saren reported the fleet's readiness for the next stage. The President listened, then leaned forward with a faint smile. We've spent 1,000 years convincing the galaxy we are harmless. The Dominion has shown the universe our mask. Now we show them what's behind it. In hidden shipyards orbiting Neptune, the final phase of the human fleet was being prepared. These were not defensive ships meant to protect colonies or guard trade lanes. These were offensive warships, designed for planetary siege and deep space assault. Black-holed and silent running, they could cross entire systems without detection. The largest of them, the TNS Revenant, had never been activated before. Its core weapon, known only as the Eclipse Lance, had the power to tear through the shields of even the Dominion's strongest dreadnought. For the first time in 1,000 years, humanity was not just preparing to defend. They were preparing to take the fight into enemy space. The peace era had not made them weaker. It had made them patient.
Ow.
Now that patience was over, the wolves had waited long enough. The blackness of space near the Dominion frontier was silent, broken only by the faint glimmer of distant stars. That silence did not last. Without warning, the human fleets emerged from the void, their hulls absorbing the light like shadows made solid. The TNS Revenant led the spearhead, its silhouette dwarfing even the Dominion's largest dreadnoughts. No warning was given. No declaration of war was sent. Humanity's counterattack had begun. The first strike fell upon the Dominion outpost. At Core's Gate, a heavily fortified station guarding the approach to their core worlds, for centuries, no enemy had ever reached it. That night, its defensive platforms lit up with the blinding flash of the Eclipse Lance. The weapon tore a path through the outpost's shields and armor in a single strike, reducing it to molten wreckage before its gunners even had a chance to target the human fleet. Shadow Corps strike teams boarded the surviving Dominion ships, moving through the corridors like wraiths, cutting power, seizing control rooms, and planting demolition charges. When they withdrew, the entire outpost detonated behind them, leaving nothing but drifting metal in the void. The news of Kor's gate's fall raced ahead of the human fleets, spreading panic across Dominion territory. In the war chambers of the Dominion capital, Lord Xyrith's advisors spoke in urgent, fearful tones. "My lord, the humans do not fight as others do. They do not seek territory. They do not stop to resupply, and they leave no survivors. They are coming directly for us." Xyrith's jaw tightened. "Then we will meet them in open battle. We will crush them before they reach our home." His fleet assembled near the gas giant Xereth Prime, forming an iron wall across the human approach. It was the largest battle group the Dominion had fielded in centuries. But the humans had chosen this place deliberately. As the Dominion ships advanced, the humans unleashed their trap. Massive asteroid engines hidden on the dark side of Xereth Prime's moons activated and hurled kilometer-wide rocks into the enemy formation. The Dominion scrambled to evade, their once perfect lines breaking apart. In that chaos, the human fleet struck from three sides at once. The battle was brutal and swift. Dominion ships burned in the void, their wreckage spinning into Xereth Prime's crushing storms. The TNS Vengeance and TNS Revenant cut through the enemy flagships with surgical precision, their gunners hitting weak points the Dominion had never revealed to outsiders. When the last alien cruiser fell silent, the surviving Dominion vessels attempted to retreat. They did not get far. Human boarding parties disabled their jump cores and left them drifting, their crews forced to watch as humanity moved closer to their capital system. In the aftermath, Admiral Saren transmitted a single message to Lord Xyrath, her voice calm and cold. "You came to our home thinking we had forgotten how to fight. We waited 1,000 years for someone to be foolish enough to test us. Now we are coming to yours." The Dominion's outer defenses were gone. Humans were less than 3 jumps from the heart of their empire. For the first time in its long history, the Var Dominion understood the fear they had once dealt to others. The wolves were not just awake, they were hunting. The Dominion capital world of Varus Prime shimmered like a jewel in the darkness, its vast cities stretching across continents, orbital defenses glinting in the light of its twin suns. For centuries, no enemy fleet had ever appeared in its skies. That changed when the human armada emerged from the void, black warships cutting across the starlit backdrop like blades. At their head, the TNS Revenant and TNS Vengeance advanced in perfect formation, their weapons fully charged. For a long moment, the alien homeworld stood still, as if refusing to believe what was happening. Then the alarm sirens began to wail. Lord Xyrath stood at the command deck of his last great fleet, his claws tightening around the railing as the humans advanced. Pride burned in his chest, but so did something else, fear. He had never faced an enemy that moved with such precision, that struck without hesitation, that turned every battlefield into a trap. And now they had brought the war to the very heart of his empire. The Dominion ships formed a defensive line, bristling with weapons, shields flaring as they prepared for the final stand. The battle erupted with a thunderous exchange of fire. Plasma beams and missile salvos lit up the void, but the humans did not falter. They advanced steadily, their ships weaving between barrages with cold efficiency. The Eclipse lance fired again, piercing through the shield of the Dominion flagship and leaving a smoking hole in its hull. Shadow Corps strike teams breached orbital platforms, seizing control before the defenders could even sound the alarm. Every move was calculated, every strike deliberate. But as the battle raged, something unexpected happened. The human fleets began pulling back not in retreat, but in formation. The Dominion braced for another assault, but instead, the humans broadcast a single message on all channels. The President herself appeared on the screen, her voice calm but unyielding. 1,000 years ago, we offered the galaxy peace. You took it as weakness. Today, we could end you. We choose not to. Remember this: humanity does not forget, and humanity does not forgive. The next time you think to raise your hand against us, think of this day. The guns fell silent. The Dominion fleet, battered and broken, could only watch as humanity offered terms not surrender, but a treaty written entirely on human terms. The conditions were simple. No Dominion warships would enter human space, no interference in human colonies, and full reparations for every life and resource lost. Refusal meant total destruction. Lord Zyreth, his pride bleeding with every breath, accepted. When the treaty was signed, the human fleets turned and departed without firing another shot. The skies over Varus Prime cleared, but the memory of that black armada would never fade. In the streets of Earth, the people welcomed their fleets home, not with wild celebration, but with quiet pride. The wolves had bared their teeth and proven they still ruled the hunt on a quiet beach. Far from the war rooms and battlefields, a young boy drew the shape of a warship in the sand. His father asked him what it was. The boy smiled. "It's ours," he said. Somewhere far above, a black ship drifted silently through the stars, watching. The peace era had returned, but this time it was peace on humanity's terms. And the galaxy would never again mistake their patience for weakness.